India is a very close nation, partner in international relations. From our own Slovak perspective, India is a superpower when it comes to digital economy, digital skills and the digital technology. Multilateralism is fatally wounded and is laying on the ground. Multilateralism as such is suffering a major blow. You cannot artificially establish efficacy of something which, when the members of those institutions are acting in an opposite way. When it comes to the war against Ukraine, it must be a turning point. There is a clear responsibility on the Russian side because this is unprovoked aggression. There people are being killed. People are dying in Ukraine just for the mere fact that they're Ukrainians. This war in our neighborhood, this war in the very heart of Europe, is in a way game changer. It is not an exaggeration when I say that there is a real threat. If Ukraine loses, then Slovakia will have a new neighbor, and we don't want to be a direct neighbor to the Russian Federation. We take into account the Indo-Pacific region represents 3 out of 4 biggest economies in the world outside of European Union. When Indo-Pacific region contributes with 2/3 to global growth.
Welcome to Raisina Ideas Pod. I am Jaibal Naduvath, Vice President at the Observer Research Foundation. And I have with me in conversation Mr. Ivan Korčok, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Slovak Republic. Welcome to Raisina Ideas Pod, sir.
Thank you very much, and many thanks for having me.
So Slovakia and India celebrate 30 years of excellent diplomatic relations. Slovakia's position aligns much with the Indian position at various multilateral fora. However, our relationship in terms of trade, etc., have been in some very traditional areas and they've not really expanded. What are the new areas in which India and Slovakia can collaborate to the benefit of each other and to the greater common good of all?
First, I want to underscore what you have said, namely India is a very close nation, partner in international relations. From our own Slovak perspective, you know, we're a small Central European country and our focus is mainly on our area, on our neighborhood. But we are living in a globalized world, and therefore we are reaching out beyond this area of our main focus in Central Europe. And of course, India is a very welcome partner. Number 2, as you have said, there is tradition. It's 30 years of our relationship, but of course it reaches out back to the pre-Slovakia time, between former Czechoslovakia. And there were traditional areas of cooperation. I will elaborate on them. But first, even during my term, we have really intensified the political dialogue. That's very important. Today or tomorrow, my successor is going to meet for the 3rd time with Mr. Minister Jakanshar within 10 months. He visited Slovakia. I was here, I'm here now, Foreign Minister of Slovakia is here. So I'm saying this because there is a good foundation for this partnership. And there are traditional areas, for example, defense. Today we are opening Indian-Slovak Defense Cooperation Forum because this is a traditional area of cooperation. But 2, Minister of Foreign Affairs is signing today a protocol on cultural exchange. So there are other areas where basically we want to bring our people more together to get to know each other even better. And then in Slovakia, we are automotive superpower, and there is a whole cluster of industries which was developed around automotive with IT sector, electronics. So simply said, we want to explore the areas of economic cooperation with more added value. And I think India is a superpower when it comes to digital economy, digital skills and the digital technology. I think we can together achieve more. I would wrap it up by saying that this year will be a record year when it comes to trade turnout between Slovakia and India. We hope it will reach $1 billion per year. We are a small economy. So I think there is a very good perspective, but there is political interest and political will on our side to cooperate more closely.
So India and Slovakia have collaborated and cooperated very closely on various multinational fora.
Right.
But as things show us, as the way the conflict in Eurasia and conflicts around the world show us the inability of global institutions to respond to situations like COVID, and they point to a certain inefficacy in them. How do you think multilateralism could respond and be relevant in the current situation?
There is no other alternative to multilateralism. The tragedies that we are observing around the world, they just demonstrate what it means, what one of the distinguished speakers have said yesterday at the opening, namely multilateralism is fatally wounded and is laying on the ground. Multilateralism as such is suffering a major blow from international community. So we are lacking multilateralism, and we have to reestablish that based on trust and cooperation, because otherwise we will be seeing and we will be witnessing the conflicts such as those as we see in Slovakia in our direct neighborhood. You've mentioned inefficacy of international institutions. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is the proper word, inefficacy. But my point is that institutions as such, they cannot be effective unless those who are part of these institutions, it's us, it's the states, it's the sovereign states which represent the membership of those institutions, respect and observe the basic principles of international relations, international law, the prohibition of use and threat of force. So those kind of things are the precondition for the institutions to work and operate. You cannot artificially establish efficacy of something which, when the members of those institutions are acting in an opposite way. And I think it's a case study when it comes to the failure of multilateralism, breach of international law, humanitarian law, use of force, and so on. So when it comes to the war against Ukraine, it must be a turning point. And I understand you in India, in Indo-Pacific regions, when you believe that we are too Eurocentric at this moment when we are suffering from this war. I agree entirely with you that in the past we've not been paying enough attention to other conflicts. But this is a turning point really in terms of the need to reflect on, once again, the very basic principles such as multilateralism and international law in order to prevent people from further suffering as we are seeing that just a few hundred kilometers away from Slovakia. So this is horrible. This is a failure. There is a clear responsibility on the Russian side because this is unprovoked aggression. But we need to sit at the table and together and collectively resurrect, if you want, our commitment to multilateralism. Because unilaterally and when insisting on individual interests which are then pursued by force, that's going to bring us to further suffering.
You have so rightly said about the conflict in Eurasia being a turning point for Europe. So has the Russia-Ukraine conflict led to the rise of European solidarity? Do you see resurgence of pan-European nationalism? And we hear about European states coming together in a way like never before.
That's an interesting question. I would respond it with absolutely yes when it comes to solidarity, because, in Slovakia, we are a neighboring country. Imagine within the first days of conflict, 1 million refugees have crossed the border. We are 5.5 million citizens country, and 1 million entered the border from east of Ukraine to Slovakia over 2 weeks or within 2 weeks. Imagine 1/5 of our population. Many of them continued then and traveled to their relatives across Europe, but thousands of them have stayed in Slovakia. What else if not solidarity was challenged, and therefore we've been helping each other, assisting. It's among European countries, but at the same time it is a solidarity of our citizens, who have shared part of their well-being, if you want, with those in need. So definitely yes to solidarity. Pan-European nationalism, that's interesting. I have not even realized that it could be this kind of, or this dimension, or this angle from which you can look at this. I would clearly say no. The opposite is reality. Namely, we see what consequence nationalism, which Russian Federation basically was imposing on Ukraine, can cause. There are people are being killed, people are dying in Ukraine just for the mere fact that they're Ukrainians. They were in a, so to say, the narrative which preceded the war, which we've been hearing from Russian Federation, was built around the underlying idea that there is no such nation like Ukraine. So yes, solidarity, but definitely not pan-European nationalism, but rather pan-European solidarity, pan-European determination to oppose this gross breach of international law, because this is a threat to the entire European security architecture.
So is Central and Eastern Europe becoming the new arbiter for a new European identity? Is the gravity of European politics shifting to Central and Eastern Europe?
I mean, of course, this war in our neighborhood, this war in the very heart of Europe, is in a way game changer. It is in a way, because countries in the western parts of Europe, they just see what is going on in the eastern flank, if you want. And you're right when you maybe not gravity is moving that much, but definitely it is the point from which these countries have made clear to Europe, but I think globally as well, what is at stake. So, because we are directly affected, we are a neighboring country, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, those countries and the Baltic countries, we are direct neighbors to this horrible development. And the world is therefore focused on us. They are attentively listening to us, how we are basically struggling with that, how we are trying to mobilize the support, both humanitarian and military support, because it is not an exaggeration when I say that there is a real threat. If Ukraine loses, then Slovakia will have a new neighbor. And we don't want to be a direct neighbor to the Russian Federation, because this was a full-scale military invasion with the view to taking over, basically, the Ukrainian and the democratically elected government in Kiev. So the whole order is at stake, and indeed, you are absolutely right. The European countries, but also globally, they are listening to those who are most affected and who are confronted with that in our direct neighborhoods.
So the EU has come with a renewed focus on the Indo-Pacific in April of 2021, the new Indo-Pacific document and cooperation. Central and Eastern Europe particularly is, and the V4 are very, are seemingly recalibrating their engagements in the Indo-Pacific. And we see new engagements with Taiwan, we see new engagements with other states. Where is this rethink coming from? I mean, and what is the new thinking in the capitals of Central Europe?
You are right, because when I look back at the last 15 to 20 years, our main focus was to be integrated into the Western institutions. We were busy with that. I was leading negotiations of my country to NATO. So I was the chief negotiator on our accession to NATO. Later on, we've joined European Union. But as time is elapsing and passing by, we of course are looking around more intensively, and definitely in the Pacific region. When you look at your economic strength, and you look at the economic potential, when you look at the security and defense dimension, when you look at the shift in geopolitical circumstances, it is this region. And therefore, when I was foreign minister, definitely I was the one who said that it's not only about classical diplomacy, but it's about us who are obliged to knock on the doors and open those doors for, especially for economic cooperation, because at the end of the day, it's about jobs. And if we can cooperate more closely, we take into account the Indo-Pacific region represents 3 out of 4 biggest economies in the world outside of European Union. When Indo-Pacific region contributes with 2/3 to global growth. When you look at the areas like digital economy and others, we simply have no other choice but to explore opportunities for closer cooperation. And similarly, you have mentioned Taiwan, for example. We respect one China policy, of course. On the other hand, having good relationship with China, we of course in Slovakia, Taiwanese investment is 4 times bigger than the Chinese investment. So therefore, there are interests, and we wanna use those opportunities and tap that potential for prosperity for our own citizens. It's the same what my dear colleague Jaikan Shah is engaged in when he is coming to Central Europe, when we are meeting in different formats with India bilaterally and Slovakia, but also in the formats you have mentioned, for example, the Visegrad 4. India it's big, population-wise, territory-wise, and therefore I understand you are trying to identify partners, but possibly who are a bit more commensurate with your size, and therefore, for example, Visegrad 4 is a very well proven platform for that.
Well, with that, we end our conversation. So thank you very much, Mr. Korčok, for your very, very insightful views. And thank you for joining us again at Raisina Ideas Pod.
Thank you very much, and I cannot end but thanking and congratulating organizing on this excellent, outstanding forum and very good platform for exchange of views.
Thank you for your very, very kind words.
Thank you so much.